Hello guys, thank you for joining me today. We are finally at the end. This is going to be my final presentation for my master's degree in public health. So as you can see, the title, which is my face, is blocking it. It said final presentation on it, but my face is blocking that. Also another disclaimer, this seems to be cutting off some of the very bottom graphics. So like sometimes I would have citations on the bottom just because of my computer screen. It's not the right aspect ratio where I'm recording it from. So it's a little bit bigger and wider. So it's more square than wide. So and the recording device is a widescreen only. So if some of those things are cut off, the references are not there. It is there. I promise. It's just the way this computer is working. So finally, the final presentation, and thank you for staying with me for this long. This is for my professor, but I'm posting it on YouTube as well for the general audience so that you could learn something about nuclear science, nuclear physics, medical physics, and health physics, health physics is what I'm really studying to get my degree in. Masters of Health Physics at Oregon State University. My name is David Capobianco, and thank you for joining me today. So this is final presentation. This is building on the midterm presentation, which is of Lutetium-177 PSMA therapy. And over there, the midterm presentation kind of talks more about what it is, what it does, the process of it through the body, the science of it. This is more about like the challenges, the regulatory body, the workforce, kind of more the logistics side of it. So this is going to be more of that, right? So like I said before in other slides, this is actually for my school presentation for my master's degree, but it is made for the YouTube audience, so that I'm going to be talking a little bit more casually and whatnot. There's a lot here, so I did condense it down quite a bit. I do have notes that I have on the side of my computer. I have two screens. So if I pause a little bit and look away from the camera or whatnot, I'm looking at my notes because there's a lot here. There's a lot here. I even wrote a final report on it, and I definitely can't cover everything for sure. But another disclaimer, this is the image that I don't have source for is generated by AI. So I'll kind of tell you which one is, but half of it, like I think like the first 3 or 4 is AI generated and the rest is not. So I do have sources for everything that is not AI generated for sure. All right. So let's kind of move forward. Oh, one last thing. I am not a doctor. This is for education purpose only as someone who's pursuing a master's degree in health physics. This is my final project, so this should not be substituted as medical advice that you need to be talking to a doctor. And the reason I'm posting it on YouTube is for archives and entertainment purpose only, right? So let's start with the introduction. I am playing a little bit with the PowerPoint, so if you can kind of see here with what I'm doing here, the picture is generated by AI, and I kind of did like some blank here, but hopefully you guys like it. But so let's start with the introduction. In this presentation, examine the real-world clinical adoption and future development of Lutetium-177 PSMA radioligand therapy. The discussion focused on emerging clinical application of Lutetium-177 based on radiopharmaceutical challenges related to radiation safety and regulatory implementation, workforce, and infrastructure. Need for theranostic programs. Comparison with alternative radionuclide therapy such as alpha emitter and the role of national and international organizations in supporting safe development of these treatments. So the topic that we're going to be cover right now is expanding clinical application, safety and regulatory implementation, workforce and infrastructure, comparison with alpha therapies, role of regulatory organization. So I'm trying something different with this presentation. Usually I kind of have like bullet points that's very short, and I'll kind of just, for me to actually remember what I want to say. But for this presentation, I wanted to try putting on some of the notes here, so that I won't have to flip through my other notes on the other side. But we'll see how it goes. I may kind of read through it, but then maybe in the future, like other some slide, maybe it just it doesn't click well. I'll just kind of have you guys read it on your own. It's there, and I'll kind of talk through my own words, right? So current clinical application of lutetium-177 radiopharmaceutical, right? So there are so lutetium-177 radiopharmaceutical therapy is currently used in multiple cancer treatment. The most widely established application include treatment of neuroendocrine tumors using lutetium-177 dotatate, and treatment of metastatic prostate cancer using lutetium-177 PSMA therapy, right? So let's kind of talk about it a little bit more. So lutetium-177 denotate, it's kind of more towards the pancreas. This is what it's focused on, and that's not what this presentation is about at all, but there are two that's currently been approved by the FDA, and that's one of them, and it's for the prostate or the intestine, and that kind of binds toward the overexpression of SSTR hormones, you know, but we're not going to get into that, right? But PSMA, if you watch the midterm presentation, it actually more toward pancreatic cancer in men, where they target the PSMA hormones that produced by the cancer cell, right? That if you have cancerous prostate cells throughout your body, because it could kind of break off and go attach to the other side, it's still prostate cells that are cancerous, but it's just on the other side. They still express the same amount of like hormones. The very unique hormone that they do admit, which is PSMA overexpression, right? And that's what this treatment is designed to do. It's kind of like a smart weapon where it kind of target that cell in particularly and binds towards it, right? So those are the two that's being approved right now. So that's the second one, which is the metastatic prostate cancer, the Lu-177 PSMA therapy, which is what we're going to talk about. That's the prostate cancer one, right? So for easier flow, and instead of saying lutetium-177 every time, it's a very big word, I'll just say Lu-177. Just know what I refer to when I say Lu-177. That's just kind of the abbreviated term for it, right? So these are targeted radiopharmaceutical therapy platform, right? So it's both of them, even the Lu-177 dotatate, right? They also work on the same principle, just different hormones being expressed, right? And different organs, right? So Lu-177 is now considered a platform radionuclide for theranostic oncology. So if you don't know what theranostic oncology is, it is a very targeted type of nuclear pharmaceutical treatment for your usually for cancer, and it used to both image and treat at the same time, and it's more targeted, more specialized toward your own body, right? It's a particular body, right? So let's move on. I'm trying to make this video not too long because Lu-177 material for PSMA just alone, I can talk all day about it. It is just so much material there. This is new technology, but just the fact that because of this new technology, there's so much research already being pumping out for it. It's just incredible, right? So this image actually is not from AI. This is actually, the sources is right there from that website. But let's talk about emerging clinical application, right? Research is expanding the use of Lu-177 beyond prostate and neuroendocrine tumor, right? So there's other uses for that's being researched for it. There's research popping up left and right. And it is a lot of material to read through. If you even just go to Google Scholar, like I have for this project, there is just endless amount of, there's just so much interest in this field, this topic. New radiopharmaceutical target tumor microenvironment markers are being investigated, right? So other type of tumors, so far, like I said, there's two type, right? So the intestine slash intestine, and we also have the pancreas slash intestine, and the prostate, which is what we're talking about here. There's other application that they're trying to do research on to see if they can use it for that as well, right? So example of emerging target, and I should have just led with that, fibroblast activation protein, FAP targeted therapy, right? Novel PSMA legions, right? Radiolabeled antibodies of solid tumors, and combined therapy with immunotherapy, right? So I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm not going to go through like what they are individually. This is not what the scope of this presentation is. Just so this slide is just to tell you that there are other applications that are being researched, but they're not approved yet. So none of the things that I have listed on this slide is being approved by the FDA as of yet, right? And before that, one of the key points is Lu-177 therapy are moving toward earlier disease stage and broader cancer indications, right? So it's being expanded to a lot. So this technology is actually going to save a lot of lives. So I can see on the screen that my face is cutting off the part of the slide, so I'm just going to read what is being cut off. And as you can see, there's an image there with the sources right underneath it. The growth of radiologic lesion therapy, right? So the global adoption of radioligand therapy has increased rapidly in the last decade due to improved imaging, clinical trial evidence, and regulatory approval. So the major growth drivers right now was the FDA approval of the Pluvicto, which is what we're talking about right now, is the Lu-177 PSMA. That's the first thing that actually got approved, and it was approved in 2022, and it actually got expanded quite a bit in 2024. Like the FDA expanded the approval even more in 2024. So the whole scientific field when it comes to nuclear medicine is going crazy for this type of research right now. The expansion of theranostic clinical programs as well, improve PET imaging diagnostics. So a lot of time, like with cancer and stuff like that, the PET imaging is very important. And what we talked about in the last video was that the gallium was mainly being used now to image. Now, of course, can you use Lu-177? Yes, I saw some research that you can just use it for both imaging and treatment. But so far, what I've seen, the vast majority of they're using gallium to actually radiologically image your PET imaging. Growing investment in radiopharmaceutical manufacturing. So there's a lot of interest, a lot of money there, of course. And I also saw that the trend, some of the part on this slide is being cut off. So so I'll just read it. Radioligand therapy is becoming major compartment of precision oncology, right? So before, like I talked about in the last lecture, which is the last midterm PowerPoint, was that the older school, the cancer can get very resistant toward the treatment, the hormonal treatments, maybe even chemotherapy treatment, and we can go into radiobiology and talk about like at certain time when cells get starved, especially the cancer cell gets starved, when you start to hit it with radiation, it goes into like survival mode, and it get harder and harder to kind of impact it. So like this tend to kind of overcome that a little bit with that problem. But just kind of know that this actually has a lot of money in it right now because of so much promise being shown in the thing. And of course, like with chemo, you're gonna lose your hair, you're gonna lose you're just gonna feel weak all the time. This is actually a lot better, and it's actually less invasive than all these other type of treatment. So radiation safety challenges, right? So clinical implementation of Lu-177 therapy requires strict radiation safety practice to protect patients, staff, and public. So when you talk about radiation or nuclear, you're gonna have all these type of fear and precaution that you have to have with radiological hazard as well, right? So that goes into material that we're not going to cover today, like your yearly dosage limits, and if you're working in certain field and then you're getting the treatment and you're getting extra dosage, that's actually cause for concern. And if you're like even a professional working in this field, you're around these type of radiation medicine all the time. Just maybe even if it's small, it does add up over period of years. That could definitely cause permanent damage to your body. So that's something that we need to kind of look out for radiation safety challenges, like so patient radiation exposure management, right? So that's what I was talking about with being exposed as a patient, handling of radioactive material. So that's for the workforce, the workers, the nurses, the medical physicists, the doctor, the oncologist doctor, the radiologist doctors. We're talking about maybe the techs and whatnot as well. Radiation contamination control, waste management and disposal. And we'll talk more about that later as well toward the later slide. Patient release criteria on when is it safe to release the patient with these type of radioactive material inside them and whatnot. Operational safety measures like shielding. That's something that health physics is really concerned about. So internal and external dosimetry is just what we kind of focus on a lot. Monitoring with radiation detectors, training of medical staff, right? So that's actually a big one that we'll talk about in one of the challenges later on. And this image is actually generated by AI. It's really well prompted. I prompted it to create that. The other, most AI pictures are very expressive and very vibrant, so I'll go back a few slides. Something like that. It's just really graphic and very. So I was very surprised to see it turn out like this. So it was very cool. Now let's go over to. So this is actually not AI. I do have a source for it underneath it, but it's being cut off because of the way my screen is being recorded. But it is part of that presentation. It's iqvia.com. That's where it's from. So the implementation of radiopharmaceutical therapy program require compliance with multiple regulatory and operational challenges. So we're going to talk about the FDAs and the roles that they have and whatnot, and we might kind of come back and talk about it again. But key regulatory agency, so FDA, so it said drug approval and clinical trials. So FDA pretty much evaluate the radiopharmaceutical and companion diagnostics, right? And it define approval, indicated, and labeling. So the indication and labeling of the medication as well. And they approved it in what we're talking about, which is the PSMA, the Lu-177 Pluvicto in 2022, and it expanded in 2025, right? So it pretty much that alone legitimized the Lu-177 therapy, and it really, that's why it boosted it. So they actually, so FDA kind of do testing on approval, whether it is safe for the human body or not, right? Now we talked about the NRC, right? Radiation Safety Regulatory, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, right? And what they do is they more or less kind of regulates the storage and the waste and the disposal of these type of radioactive material for the hospital. So the FDA kind of approved like whether it's safe for the human body. The NRC is like, is it safe for the person if you're not taking it, right? So like if it's stored on a shelf, like how are you supposed to store it? What kind of shielding? When you dispose of it, how are you going to dispose it? Where does it go? Where does it contain? When you transport it, like, and that's going to be the Department of Transportation. Also, like actually, they would regulate the transportation, but our NRC regulate the licensing. And what the section that you would probably be more concerned about right now is the 10 USC 35, which is the medical type in the USC, the 10 USC for this. That would be more relevant to this, right? State radiation control program. So okay, you have your state, everything. You also have things that are not listed here, where it's the IAEA. They don't regulate it, but they're a international body where they would do a lot of research. They do a lot of recommendation, and they would kind of send out recommendation. And like FDA and NRC definitely do look at it quite thoroughly before making their decision as well. So they have a lot of influence as well, but they're not listed on this slide, right? Operational challenges, so radiopharmaceutical supply chain. So supply chain is a big thing because when you make things, you just also have to have approval from the NRC, which is the licensing. It would be 10 USC 50 and 51. And then of course you have all these other challenges from all these other regulatory commission and also the state and other agency as well. Scheduling and logistics. That is a big thing, right? Treatment room preparation. So we're going to go through this a little bit more in detail, but we do have a shortage because of this, of having the facility for these type of treatment that would be appropriate. I don't think we don't have enough. Just because the populations are getting older and older and people are living longer and longer, so older people, they tend to get sick more often, so they're overburdening the healthcare. So there needs to be an expansion of treatment room and all these other type of facility, which we'll talk about in a later slide. Radiation safety documentation as well, because when you come to nuclear, anything radiation, you're gonna have to have very, very thorough documentation than other type of medication and pharmaceuticals or whatnot, or any type of other type of medical treatment. So this is going to be more logistical problem nightmare because of that, and a lot of hospitals are being treated. But that's later slides. All right, let's go over to workforce needs and theranostic programs. So now we're going to the workforce. We talked about it a little bit before, but we're going to be I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. So expanding radiopharmaceutical therapy program requires a specialized multidisciplinary workforce, right? So the radiation treatment, anything, is extremely niche, right? And this require a very niche type of education that you cannot just substitute. Like let's say like because before, like when radiation therapy is not that big, you just have like maybe a radiologist and like a few nurse, like a radiological nurse, and like a few like techs, and you're cool, right? You're fine. Now because of how deep these type of field has gotten, there's a huge need of nuclear medicine physicians, right? You also need higher need of medical physicists, right? Radiochemists, radiopharmacists, radio safety officer, nuclear medicine technologists, oncology specialists, compliance, other things, and you also need someone like me, which is health physicists, right? The problem with this field, like I said, is it's so niche and people don't really know about it until they need it, right? And it's very expensive. A lot of hospitals cannot afford to train people. They can't afford to hire dedicated staff, and then a lot of them are outsourcing their medical physicists and all these things to like third parties. So that like for example, a lot of hospital kind of they don't even have medical physicists anymore in their they actually just call like a company that has medical physicists on the hand. It's like, and these guys will work online and kind of like come in um come in and do my ver- will come in and kind of advise over like let's say Zoom or something, right? Or they'll look over the data and or the chart and do the calculation third party wise, and then they'll send it to a radiologist or whatever. But of course, because of this, it requires a higher level of training. So challenges, shortage of trained professional may limit expansion of theranostic services, right? So that's one of the big thing. And sadly, it's just not a lot of people understand it. Not a lot of hospitals understand the importance of it until they really need it. So that is kind of one of those things that is one of the challenges, and it's very frustrating for me as a health physicist trying to find a job because I'm graduating very soon. Trying to reach out to hospitals like, hey, do you have any so I can shadow, or do you have any medical physicists on there that I can come and like maybe like shadow and do internship or something like that. And most of them are like, oh no, we outsource this, most of it, you know, we don't have any like department like that here, right? So let's talk about infrastructure requirements. So other than the staffing shortage that we have for radiological treatment, we also have infrastructure treatments, right? Like infrastructure requirements limitation, where because of these are newer technology, theranostic treatment center requires specialized infrastructure. So for example, PET imaging system, you know, that is very expensive, very heavy, and like I said, a lot of people are getting older and older, and the queue to get it is getting longer and longer and longer. Most hospitals don't even have PET imaging system as much anymore, so it's being outsourced to like a third-party clinic, and those are backed up because of it, so there's just not enough. Radio pharmacy laboratory is very important as well, and that's being very limited. They're being stretched thin, the one that we do have, and there is not enough, right? Shielded treatment room, right? So because we're dealing with radiation, just with the treatment room with storage, we do need extra shielding, and that can be a challenge because it does require more expensive type of containers and whatnot and material to be able to build it, right? Radiation monitoring equipment, things to that the health physicist like me would kind of be specialized in to monitor that there's no radiation leaks, and that there's proper shielding for people who are not actually being exposed to the radiation. And if people are getting exposed to the radiation, they're not being exposed overly to that type of radiation. So operational need. Operational needs, dose calibration system, very expensive, require very technical skills for the individuals, so medical physicists and techs and whatnot. They are very expensive to train, right? And they are a very expensive degree. So like I said, like I'm finishing a master's degree in health physics. It requires a bachelor degree in physics all the way to a master's degree in physics, in health physics, which is very, very difficult, right? A very difficult degree. But like if you talk about medical physics, that's also another 2 years degree for masters, which require residency, and then you also, most of them want to go to a doctorate level, so that's even longer, right? Patient monitoring, right? So specialized training for that. Radiation survey instrument, right? So right. So key point, infrastructure investment is a major barrier for smaller hospitals. Like even where I am right now, which is I live in Winchester, Virginia. We have a trauma to a gigantically huge hospital for what we have for a small town. It's a pretty big. They don't even have the infrastructure, you know, too much to hire medical physicists. They just outsource it. And that's kind of a shame because either they just don't understand the importance of them, or they just don't have the money to spare to do that, right? They just or don't have the resources for it. Now, and that's kind of a shame because as we have aging population, people are getting older and older. Like older population tend to be more susceptible just because they've been alive longer. The statistical chances of their cells becoming cancerous increases just because of just copying itself, right? When cells repair, it keep copying itself, and there's some error. Each time it copies, the more error. So the older you get, the more chances for cancer you have, and it requires, because of cancer, it requires more specialized training for this type of thing that a lot of hospitals cannot afford. Comparison with alpha emitters therapy. So Lu-177 therapy used beta radiation, while newer therapy used alpha emitting nuclides such as actinium 225, right? So what we talk about is the Lu-177. That's a beta emitter. I talk about it a little bit more. It's betas rays, or they are pretty much electrons, like as shown in this image right here, and the source is down here. It's kind of a very high energetic electrons that kind of bounce around, and that's what used to damage the DNA. For AC 225, which is not the scope of this lecture, it uses an alpha emitters, which kind of like a bowling ball. It's helium particles, pretty much. It's 2 neutrons and 2 protons, right? And it just, as seen on here, it releases alpha particle, which is those type of helium molecule, pretty much, or helium atom, and it just rocket through the like a bowling ball and just damaging. But they don't have as much range, right? Electrons, these beta emitters tend to have higher range. These helium type alpha emitters, they don't have as much range, but they do more damage, right, for the range that they have. So they have some pro and cons for each one of them, which we're not going to go into that kind of deep dive right now, because I can talk about this all day long. There's so much material here. There is so much. I'm trying to condense it, and we're already at 32 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap this up really soon, so I don't want to make this any longer. So beta emitter Lu-177, which is what we're talking about right now, moderate energy radiation, right, longer tissue range, which is what I was saying, and well-established clinical use. It has been more researched, and it has been actually been approved, right, in 2022 and expanded, right, in 2024. Alpha emitters, the AC 225, very high energy, extremely short range, right, and potentially higher tumor killing efficiency, right, but it has lower range, right. Clinical application, alpha therapy, with lower ranges, what I'm trying to say is that like it may not penetrate deep enough to kill all the cancer. So like with cancer cells, you want to kill all of them, or it will come back. If you don't kill, because of the shorter range, it may not penetrate enough to kill all of them, right? But it has higher energy, so it can make sure that the particle, the cells that it does touching is dead, like for sure, right? Right. Clinical implication, right? So that's being cut off in this slide. The alpha therapy may be used for treatment-resistant tumor, right? So that's a whole nother can of worms that we can open. But to make it short, in radiation radiobiology, when cells become more resistant, like when they're on type of survival stage, they become really, really hard to kill. They just they become very efficient. They don't take a lot of food or oxygen to survive, and they literally just kind of go almost like in the dormant stage, and it's really hard to kill them, until they get more nutrition and all the threat is gone, and then they spread like crazy, right? Role of national and international organization, right? So we talked about it a little bit already. Several organizations support safe and effective implementation of theranostic treatment. So FDA approved radiopharmaceutical drug in clinical indication, like, and they also do labeling. They are also and what is uh, being able to display, right? And they also make sure that it's safe for the human body. So they do testing and whatnot to make sure that you can actually use it. The NRC, they do regulation, safety, medical use of radioactive material in the United States. So USC 10 USC 35 is what you're going to look for in this. And it is, they do disposal, they storage, and how to use it and whatnot, and the procedure of it, right? The IAEA support global development of nuclear medicine through training, guideline, and research programs. So IAEA also do a lot of training. They do a lot of publication. They're not a regulatory body. They're international, but the publishing and the things that they do come out with globally, they're very well recognized. People treat people who do kind of do this type of treatment or in that field, they take their advice extremely seriously, right? So if they say something is not good or something like that, they'll other regulatory board will actually look at them really closely and be like, okay, maybe we'll base our decision off of there, or if something get safer or whatnot, they look at it really closely, right? Now, professional society, so you have SMMI, they also do a lot of research. They're not a regulatory body either, and you have EANM, they're not regulatory either, right? They're highly influential, and they do a lot of publishing work in regards to radiation and whatnot, right? And they do have a lot of workforce recommendation as well, right? These organizations provide clinical practice guideline and workforce training, right? Now let's go over to future direction and conclusion, right? So Lu-177 PSMA therapy represents a major advancement in targeted radionuclide therapy and precision oncology, right? So future development, earlier use in prostate cancer treatment, right? Expansion in additional cancer type development in alpha particle therapy. So we talk about beta, which is the Lu-177, and the alpha is being also researched quite heavily. Improve dosimetry and personalized treatment planning, and expansion of global theranostic programs, right? Conclusion, radiopharmaceutical therapy is rapidly transforming nuclear medicine by integrating molecular imaging, radiation physics, and targeted cancer therapy. So we're at the end of our presentation. I just don't want to make it any more. I can keep talking about this. We're almost at 40-minute mark. So I'm going to transition to the references. There's 3 slides. So if you need to, you can pause it and kind of look at the references, where I got it from and whatnot. And then here's the last slide. They're quite a bit. This is a very big topic, and there was a few other that I kind of lost reference to. I did read quite a bit on this, and it did took a lot of time. So, but there's a lot there. So hopefully you enjoyed this presentation. Hopefully that if you're not my professor, this is made for my professor. But if you're not part of the and she's at this point she's so used to me making YouTube type videos and talking to the broader audience. I think she knows what I'm all about when I do a presentation at this point. But if you have any question or comments or whatnot, please leave it below. Put like on this. I don't make any money off of these videos. It just kind of help other people kind of notice this video a little bit better. Other than that, like this is I'm doing my master's degree, and this is finally at the end. This is probably going to be my last presentation on it. If I talk about anything else in regards to this, I don't seem to get a lot of traction when I talk about nuclear. So I probably won't make too much video on it unless there's some traction and there's some requests to it. But if you have any question, put it onto the comment below, and I'll try to address it as best as I can. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this long, and have a good one. All right, bye.